Hello, chickens. Welcome to sweet, sweet Fieros Reborn. Feel the rebirth of yourself in every moment and every second, such that you never know what's going to happen next, and you never know what is going to come out of your face. Could be bogies, it could be breasts, the breasts of plenty, the two breasts in the sky, the first breast of the left, my left. And the second breast, the second breast. Oh, whatever. Hey, welcome back to Fieros' story time on the channel of this Fieros Reborn, cracking along. I feel slightly sub Fieros today. I feel a bit blue comparatively, as to we do have a flame thing here by my lower self, my evil self, the Fieros Wilson. Who's that guy? Yeah, we've got him in the old Psych Ward 1 book there, which has a brilliant description on the back. Nothing. Let's read a bit in here. Oh dear, no, let's not read a bit in here. Vagina. Right, so last lesson, last session, last sermon, last lesson we got, last story time, we were still in America, and my theme for the day today, in this hour or so of sessionage, is to talk more about America again, because I realised I became homeless in America on at least 2 separate occasions, and I nearly got raped once. Yeah, nearly got raped once. And I kind of did get sexually abused at one point, which I need to delve into that, like what the hell happened there, because I haven't really told that yet, and I need to there's like lots of little chunks of story that they all fit into the overall narrative of being in America, but I'm not really sure like at what point they happened, so it'll be good for me to clarify some of these aspects. So I'm gonna start at a point where I got kicked out of my hostel. Right, because my money had run out and I could not afford to stay there anymore. I don't know. I think I'd booked. Wow. I swear I'd booked enough time to stay in hostels for the whole thing. And then why had I run out of time there? Because I had a 3-month visa and I got my plane ticket. Like my plane tickets were booked as a return flight. Yeah, so I had the 3 months. My flight to maybe that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, because I missed my flight. Yeah, on purpose. Oh, yeah, my parents were not happy about that. They were freaking out, man. So yeah, I got this 90-day visa, right? But I hadn't scheduled the whole 90 days to stay there. I'd scheduled like, I don't know, 70 days or something, like 2.5 months or 2 months. I think I'd scheduled 2 months to be there. And so the last month, I skipped my flight home. I just didn't go. I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay in America, and I figured, oh, the universe will sort it out. Which did actually end up happening, and the universe turned into the form of my mum and dad buying me a new ticket eventually. They were freaking out that I wasn't going to, that I would skip that one as well, but it didn't happen in that way. I did end up going home. So we know that the story has a good ending in a sense. Well, does it though? I'm here now. That's all you need to know. Okay, I survived everything, and I did not die, and I'm still here for the moment in this human body. Ooh, we don't know what I may turn into next. Oh, it might turn into fire. I will be when I'm cremated. Anyway, let's come into the zone. Let's just focus here. Sit on the carpet of life, and rest yourselves to await the story that bubbles forth from the bountiful brain and psyche of the Fieros Reborn entity. Hello. What were I on about? Right, so I was in America, And yeah, so I'd skip my flight because I was listening to my brain and, trying to follow the intuitive wisdom of the brain and the inner soul and the God and awareness of the universe and things like this. And I kept getting this feeling and this sense and this internal voice, if you like, but it wasn't really a voice. It was a voice. It was just a little sentence, a little phrase. It was just saying, "Stay here, stay here, stay here, stay here." And I thought, well, yeah, maybe I should obey that because I do kind of want to stay here anyway. So maybe I should stay here in America, right? And that was a pretty tough decision, I must say, to make that decision. Because I knew that would throw me into the unknown even more deeply than I already was. To randomly skip my flight with no plan as to what I would do when the hostel time ran out. Oh man. Oh God, I didn't have anyone that I knew who was going to help me out. I didn't know anyone. I was just completely like adrift, and in a way that had been my original plan. I mentioned this way back in one of the older videos, but one of my original, fuck me, I can't believe I'm still here. I can't believe I actually exist. I should have died about 10 times during my life by the stupid shit I did. Oh, Lord. Like, how am I here? How am I still alive? Okay, so, yeah, my original plan was I wanted to go to America without accommodation and just kind of show up. And I had this, like, I suppose this whimsical fairy tale American dream story of like showing up there, becoming homeless for a bit, and then I think I had this idea of like the Dark Knight. No, Batman Begins. It was a bit like a Batman Begins kind of feeling that I had for myself about it. I felt like I was going to go away into this kind of wilderness, and you know what? In Batman Begins, he spends time like Batman, whatever his name is, Christian Bale, Roger Federer. What's Batman's name? Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne. He lives with criminals and stuff in the undergrowth. He lives in kind of sewers or something. I can't remember, but he lives a life as a criminal for a while, and then he goes and trains with Raz Al Hanout, the spice of life. He goes and trains with Raz Al Ghuli, Raz Al Ghulis in the mountains and shit like this. So he goes off on a kind of spiritual quest and training, and he goes from a privileged upbringing. Actually, my whole story is basically the Batman Begins story. Yes. Apart from I didn't really become a criminal. Did I though? Did I? No, I didn't. Not fully. No, I did not steal any drugs from anyone. Right. Let's try and be serious now. No, the Batman story. Seriously, I think like because Bruce Wayne was in his privilege, right, and his parents had died, whatever, and so he was now an orphan in that sense. And I felt orphaned by my parents. No, it's not really. It wasn't that way at all. It wasn't that deep. But I did feel like I was overprivileged when I was 19, 20 years old at university. I felt like I didn't know anything about life. I didn't know anything real about life. I'd never had to go through any hardship in terms of finances. I'd never had to go through any hardship in terms of physical conditions. Everything had always been easy, and it had always been handed to me on a plate. I mentioned this before. Like I got given a car for my birthday. My family were like paying for my insurance on my car. It's like life was being really spoon fed to me like on a silver plate thing. And I felt like because of that I didn't know what it meant to be alive. I didn't know what it meant to suffer. I didn't know what it meant to go through hardship. Now, I've subsequently learned that you don't have to necessarily go on a stupid fucking adventure in order to learn about the suffering of life, because the suffering of life shows up whatever the case. But I'm glad I went on a stupid fucking adventure to learn of the suffering of life, because I suppose it has taught me something. maybe. Who knows? I suppose what it teaches me, in retrospect, and has informed me, is a real deep self-reliance, and self-knowledge and self-understanding. And yeah, self-reliance is the best way to call it. Resourcefulness, inner resourcefulness, to deal with random situations, and also to create random situations, and to face into the unknown territory of the weird life. You know, to be able to talk to the strange person, to be able to like deal with the very odd situation. Admittedly, at the moment, I don't want to go near odd situations anymore. I've been in too many fucking odd situations in my life, so I've had enough of it. I'm not ready for any more adventures. Okay, I'm in a very quiet phase of my life where normally I'd be out gallivanting and doing strange things, and finding things out the hard way. And no, none of that just now. Don't want to do it. I've had enough. That's why I'm doing these stories, these videos. It's a kind of like long-term processing phase in my life where I take stock of everything that has already happened and all the adventures I've already been on, and learn the lessons and deliver the wisdoms of these stories, if there are any wisdoms at all. Yeah, and it's just kind of like, let's just calm down for a minute. No more adventures in becoming homeless and getting raped and being trapped in a dungeon. That didn't actually happen. But I did have a wank in a sewer. That's true. That is true. Possibly the weirdest thing I've ever done. Yeah, and the creepiest thing. And even while I was doing it, I thought this was the creepiest thing I've ever done. I felt really gross, the whole wanking in the sewer thing. And where was that anyway? Was that in New York? Or was that in Louisiana? Where did I wank? Wanking across the world. Oh dear. So let's go back to, so I was just saying, like, I felt really overprivileged and I wanted to learn what the truth of life was. And the truth of life to me seemed to be a life that was unstructured, that didn't have all this society nonsense around it. And it was a homeless life, really. It was a kind of unsupported is a good word for it. Unsupported life where you're just faced into the bare bones of like no one else is helping you with anything. You're homeless. You don't have any support systems. You have to fend for yourself. You have to make it up as you go along. You know, you have to kind of like trust your wits or learn your wits, that kind of thing. Booyaka Shah. Yeah. So let's try and fast forward to the point where, well, as I was deciding about what my trip was going to go like when I was like deciding to go to America, I was speaking to my friend about whether or not I should go, and I said, I'm definitely going to go and I want to be homeless. And she was like saying, no, you can't. And I, well, fucking, I will, don't know, tell your parents or call the police or something, or I'll inform the authorities in America to say that your plan is to become homeless, and I can't let you do it. You've got to get accommodation, and I'll never be your friend again, and I'll never talk to you again if you don't fucking book some accommodation. So she kind of did all these blackmailing tactics, which is pretty good, I suppose, because it made sense in a way to actually have some support in the whole thing. I didn't want to do it, but I ended up doing it. So I booked out the hostel. However, as I previously mentioned earlier on in this video, okay, so I bought my ticket, the plane ticket, and I booked all the hostels. So it was a return flight, which was like, I guess it was 2 months, 2.5 months, I don't know exactly. And I skipped the flight. So I still managed to get my cherished dream of becoming homeless in America and having to live by my wits as it was planned. You know, I managed to get that experience of like literally, oh God, you know, like ground rush as to shit, everything suddenly is hitting the fan. And that was an experience that I really wanted to create for myself. I really wanted to go through that, to know how to deal with it, or to figure it out, or to trust my wits to get something from it. I don't know. It was just something that I needed to do and wanted to do and had wanted to do since I was in university, when I was saying to my friends that I wanted to go and sleep rough for a week. And they were like, no, you can't do it because you might get beaten up or you get mugged or whatever. And I was like, yeah, but that's kind of the point, is to like learn about a difficult life, a life that is not safe, I suppose, a life that is not safe and cozy and warm and fluffy and where nothing bad ever happens. So that the issue is that you never contact any reality of life. Everything is always like there's like a barrier of comfort, the comfort zone. There's a barrier of comfort in most of our lives that prohibits us from going any deeper, from experiencing any deeper feelings, any stronger or more intense feelings about life, because our feelings and our experiences of life are constantly being smothered by the society and the structure that surrounds us. Like it being in a warm house, for example, and never really feeling what it means to be against the elements, like really against the elements. Like someone who is homeless will experience that on a daily basis. Like the sun is amazingly hot all the time when it's sunny, and then when it's cold in the winter, it's absolutely fucking freezing, and you have to deal with that, and you have to like. That's the truth of being homeless. So I wanted to feel that. I wanted to, what was it? To be able to appreciate the life of comfort that we have. I wanted to experience the opposite, something like that. And maybe I saw it as like a kind of Buddha style journey. You know, in the story of the Buddha, he was lived in a palace and he never saw anything. Like he never saw any dead people or ill people or what's the 4 things that he saw? Poor person, I think. The 4 people the Buddha saw. Yeah, because, you know, 4 sights. He, which led to the realization of impermanence and the ultimate dissatisfaction of conditioned existence. According to this legend, before these encounters, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha guy, had been confined to his palace by his father, who feared that he would become an ascetic if he came into contact with sufferings of life, according to a prediction. So it's a bit kind of like that. What I was first venture out of the palace deeply, on his first venture out of the palace deeply.
Okay, and made him realize what? Made him realize the sufferings of all humans and compelled him to begin his spiritual journey as a wandering ascetic, which eventually led to his enlightenment. The spiritual feeling of urgency experienced by Siddhartha Gautama is referred to as observing the sights. So he, on his journey, right, he saw an old man, revealing to Siddhartha the consequences of aging. When the prince asked about this person, Channa replied that aging was something that happened to all beings. The second sight was of a sick person suffering from a disease. Once again, the prince was surprised at the sight. This is Prince Siddhartha, and Channa, his chariot driver, explained that all beings are subject to disease and pain. This further troubled the mind of the prince, that none can stay healthy and live in a pain-free life. True. The third sight was of a dead body. You don't get to see that much these days, but they are available on Netflix. The third sight was of a dead body, excuse me. As before, Channa explained to the prince that death is an inevitable fate that befalls everyone. Oh, Lord. After seeing these 3 sights, Siddhartha was troubled in his mind and sorrowful about the sufferings that had to be endured in life. So previous to this, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, Gautama, he had never seen any of these things, so he's kind of just in a closed, fanciful palace-like environment where all his pleasures were fulfilled, you know, and he never saw anything bad and nothing bad ever happened. It's the same fucking story, yeah? After seeing these 3 negative sights, Siddhartha came upon the 4th sight, an ascetic who had devoted himself to finding the cause of human suffering. This sight gave him hope that he too might be released from the sufferings arising from being repeatedly reborn, and he resolved to follow the ascetic's example. Let's have a look at the third bit. It says aftermath. After observing these 4 sights, Siddhartha returned to the palace, where a performance of dancing girls was arranged for him. That sounds good. Let's just linger on that moment. Performance of dancing girls was arranged. Well, that didn't happen when I came back from America. Performance of dancing girls. Where was my performance of dancing girls? Huh? I did the journey. I became an ascetic in America for 3 days. Where's my performance of dancing girls when I returned? No. Throughout the performance, the prince kept on thinking about the sights. Yeah, I've been there, man. You know when you're just at a party and you're like, fuck this party, man. There's dead people outside. You know? Fuck this party. My granddad died recently. Fuck these fucking dancing fucking girls. Fuck them. I just farted. I'm that excited. As a friend of mine once said, well, should I call him a friend? Childhood friend. Became older. Therefore, he was an adult friend. This sounds weird. Adultfriendfinder.com. No, friend of mine who's not really a friend, but used to be a friend a little bit back in the day when it was a family friend. But now he's just a guy who I hear about every now and again. And if I was to meet him again, I might say, hello there. How are you? So he's more of a kind of like an acquaintance guy who I used to know. This is getting deep. We were in a strip club together for my brother's hen do, in the male form of that, which is stag night. The stag night, stag do, staggity stag. We're in a strip joint, right, with a bunch of us, all kind of friends. Yeah, my brother's friends mainly, but some of my friends who I knew from the family days. We're in the strip joint, and this guy, he says, oh, fucking dancing girls, it's like it's like being in a museum. I don't know what he meant by that. It's like going to the Natural History Museum. I don't know if he meant because they were old and saggy. They weren't particularly old and saggy. But what did he mean by that? He was like, look but don't touch. I was like, yeah, there is a look but don't touch to some extent. But then if you pay them, they can touch you. Lots. So, Siddhartha returned to the palace where a performance of dancing girls was a strip joint. Throughout the performance, the prince kept on thinking about the sights. Oh, it's like being in a museum. And there's dead people and ill people and old people outside. In the early hours of morning, he finally looked about him and saw the dancers asleep and in disarray. The sight of this drastic change strengthened his resolve to leave in search of an end to the suffering of beings. There you go. So after this incident and realizing the true nature of life, after observing the 4 sights, Siddhartha led the palace on his horse Kantaka, accompanied only by Channa. He sent Channa back with his possessions and began an ascetic life. Fuck you, take home my possessions, I don't need them anymore. At the end of which he gained enlightenment as Gautama Buddha. Before this, he saw a group of people join them. The leaders, blah, blah, blah. Something. Let's just finish this. The leaders of this group thought him to be so good. Oh, you're so good. That
they asked him to run their class. This may well happen to me. I may be stumbled upon by a group of meditating twonks, and they might say, please run our class. Please run our class. That might actually happen. However, he's thought that meditation was not the only factor on his path. Yes. On his path to enlightenment, he tried to discipline his body by fasting. Never going to happen. I liked pizza too much. But he realized that by doing this, he would die before he reached enlightenment. Okay, so fine. I just had to complete that for personal reasons. Marvelous. What am I on about? Oh yeah, so I was in America and I quit my fucking flight. I didn't get the flight home. I was supposed to get the flight home and I didn't. And boom, my money had run out because I fucking prepaid for the hostels. The hostel time had run out. I nicked a day, so I did steal in a way. I stole a night's stay at the hostel, and they were like annoyed at me the next day because, how did I get baited? I must have got baited out by someone. I think someone, or maybe they just know. They probably knew because they was like, why is he still here and he hasn't paid for his fucking room?
You know, why are you still here? And we know that you haven't paid for your fucking room. We know that your stay has run out. How are you still here? I just crawled into a bed and just went to sleep. So I was like, I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what else I can do, man. And then it was like proper fucked. So like literally got kicked out. I had to go and pick up all my stuff out of the luggage room. And I was like out on the streets, and I think I had a shopping trolley with my stuff in. Oh boy. So I had like a couple of guitars and a suitcase which didn't really have much in it, just had this giant book, my golden dress, and I got given some changes, like some sets of clothes right at the last minute actually by Jesus Christ, how did I live through this? Oh my lord. Oh, it's hard to believe it actually happened because it's so insane. And I've never told anyone this story, by the way. It feels like, oh my god, how did it all happen? You know, like, wow. And there was this weird woman with like sores all over her face, like she had herpes all over her face or something. And she had these sores all over her arms and stuff. And she was kind of like flirting with me, and I was like, I don't even want to touch you because I might get some kind of disease. And I think whatever she had was contagious, or certainly other people in the hostel were saying that it was contagious anyways. And I was like, oh yeah, man, I don't want to touch what you've got. And she was trying to kind of flirt with me, and I was thinking, oh, with the sores. So she was the sick person in the analogy of the Buddha. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to try and draw stupid analogies between me and the Buddha anymore, because why draw the analogies when you already are him? Okay. Him. I wonder if he did videos. The Buddha. If there were a camera, he would do them. Okay. Yeah. So the fucking clothes. So I got given some clothes like last minute, just before I was getting kicked out. Probably on the night before I was getting kicked out, I got given like a load of clothes. They just all got kind of piled in the middle, and because someone was getting rid of them, and yeah, there's one particular guy who was getting rid of them, and actually I was reluctant to take any of them. I didn't really want to take any of them. I don't know why, but I was just felt like no, this was part of the journey, that I shouldn't be taking any support from other people. Yeah, that was mainly the thing, was like I didn't want to receive help from other people. I just wanted to try and figure things out on my own. But in retrospect, the help of other people is part of figuring it out on your own. You know, if you're going to be resourceful, then you will have to accept the help that comes to you, because you cannot create your whole life just by yourself. You know, you need the help of humanity. It's not just you. So yeah, there was this big pile of clothes, and I took some, not many, but I took some of them that were offered, and I was like, okay, fine. There's this one guy, I just remember him being in like one of the top bunks. This was the guy who donated the clothes, and he mainly just sat in his bed, like lay in his bed, in the bunk bed the whole time, like watching a little sort of portable TV thing. I think he was watching football games, like American football. Yeah, and he donated those clothes, which was weird because I don't know, I didn't really kind of trust many people at the time. I guess I was quite vulnerable, and I was just overly guarded at that time. Yeah, but I guess I stuck some of those clothes in my little suitcase. I had this giant book as well in there by that point, which was a book of, well, mainly giant posters of Buddhist art, actually, is what it was. All these different goddesses and deities and pictures of the Buddha and stuff were all in there. Yeah. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit, actually, because there's a big part of this America trip that's kind of important, I guess, was when I went to Brooklyn, which was one of my pre-booked hostels. It was another hostel, but it was all the way over in Brooklyn, and it was like, oh, it took ages to get there. You don't know how far Brooklyn is away from Harlem, man. It sucks. It's like on a whole fucking different island, I think. I don't know where it is. Let's have a look on the map. Brooklyn is like its whole other thing. Let's look at maps. Yeah, it's like this whole little peninsula thing. No, wait. Let me zoom in. Hold on. Sorry, loves. Sorry, dears. Brooklyn, Long Island. Yeah. So I guess I was... Sorry, I'm just trying to... Oh, man, it was fucking miles away, dudes. So I was in Manhattan, right? I was staying in Manhattan to begin with. Oh, Midtown. Oh, so there's lots of different things I still need to talk about. I stayed in the financial district, which is, where's that? Is that Lower Manhattan? New York Stock Exchange. Oh, man. Soho is pretty cool. Soho's a pretty cool place. Soho NoHo. I didn't know there was one called NoHo. But there's a Soho in America, as well as there's a Soho in New York, sorry, as well as in London. Yeah. Anyway, fucking Brooklyn is miles away from where I was staying, and it took ages to get there, and it was a really cumbersome journey as well, because I had all this like baggage with me, eh? This was before I got kicked out of my hostel finally. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know how to explain this. Hold on, I'm gonna go for a wee. I'm trying to collect my thoughts while I'm going for a wee. Hold the line. Okay, so I suppose I just want to quickly say why I think I'm amazing as compared to anyone else who goes travelling is because I was a nutter and I went insane in terms of how I approached the idea of travelling. Most people, I think, when they go travelling, they tend to kind of have a plan. Like my cousin went travelling like last year sometime for 3 months or something, and she had everything planned out beforehand. She had each different place she was going to and what she was going to do there and what she was going to see there and the potential other options, what she might do or see if she decided like extra curriculum sort of different bits and bobs that she could do. She had everything planned out and how much it was all going to cost and like how long she was going to stay in each bit and then the travel to the next bit and then what she was going to do there, with very little leeway for kind of just doing whatever comes to you. And I suppose that's the way that people do it normally, is they have an itinerary. Yeah, they've got a plan basically where they say, right, we're going to go here for this amount of time and do these major things with maybe a bit of rest time, and then they're going to go here for a while, and you know, they plan it out basically. And that's the kind of, it feels like a sightseeing trip. That traveling is basically a sightseeing trip with a little bit of a longer sightseeing trip across a few different places or many different places. And I don't really
see that as traveling. My thing with the whole traveling is to be like to go nuts and to let the place and the adventure take you somewhere else and to learn something completely different and random about life. And yeah, I know other people who have done that kind of thing, in fact, where they go. Um, I think that people who teach English as a foreign language tend to have a more enriching travel experience because they are there in that country for a long period of time, so they get to know people and the area rather than just passing through it as a sightseeing kind of thing. So yeah, I prefer that way, the more kind of like you want to get invested into the place and to learn and experience the richness of the difference of that place as compared with where you come from. That's not to say that normal holidays and like the sightseeing approach doesn't have its own value, right? That's something else. So there's all different ways of doing traveling, and I prefer, I suppose, or I at least preferred at that particular point in time to just do this really abstract, bizarre, um, follow the wind approach. Not my own wind, but the wind of life, the fart of life. Yeah. So I was talking about, I went to Brooklyn, and it was miles away, and it was a really long trip, and I was knackered, and it was like I was carrying these heavy bags at that point. And I just want to mention it for a few reasons. When I finally arrived out, like near the hostel that I was going to stay at in Brooklyn, I was like jaded big time because it had taken forever to get there on the trains and then loads of random walking, and I felt like I was lost the whole time anyway, like I didn't know if I was even going the right direction. And I finally got off the train to the kind of to the point. I've just seen a thing on the map that says Gowanus. Gowanus is a place in Brooklyn. Gowanus. Okay. Oh man, there's also a park here called Prospect Park in Brooklyn, which is actually the name of a Reading psychiatric unit. Believe it or not, Prospect Park in Reading is a psychiatric ward. Or has a psychiatric ward anyway, to the hospital. God, that's weird. And there's an actual park called Prospect Park in Brooklyn. Weird. And this whole story ties into psychiatric ward eventually when we get there. Yeah, so I got off the underground train, whatever you'd call it, in the thing, metro train in Brooklyn. And it was late. It was really late. And there's just this miracle that happened, which was this Australian girl just showed up, like randomly. I don't know where from exactly. Was it on the train or getting off the train? She just showed up and she was like, "You look like you're having a really hard time with those bags. Do you want some help with those bags?" I went, "Yeah." and also she happened to know where the hostel was because I was like looking at some map and going, I don't know where the fuck. And it's like 2 a.m. or something, I think it was by that point. After a whole day of getting to where it was that I was going, and this girl just popped out of nowhere. I think it was as I was getting off the train, and she was just like appeared like an angel, literally like an angel. Carried one of my bags, knew where I was going, and just sort of helped me to get to where I was going. It was a ridiculously miraculous thing that just suddenly happened and came out of nowhere, and then she vanished into nowhere at the end of it as well. And I told you about this big book of Buddhist artworks. Well, there's this Buddhist deity called Tara, right? Tara, Buddhist goddess. Tara, or Arya Tara, also known as Jetsundona, is a female bodhisattva, which is an enlightened Buddha who stays in the realm of reincarnation and continues to go through rebirth in order to be of benefit to all
sentient beings in a compassionate way. So it's an enlightened Buddha, but who vows to stay in the earthly realms and to help others reach enlightenment and relieve other beings' suffering. That's what a bodhisattva is. So Tara is a bodhisattva typically associated with Tibetan Buddhism. She is the mother of liberation and represents the virtues of success in work and achievements. Tara is the feminine goddess archetype in Hindu mythology. Right, well, that doesn't exactly explain what I wanted to say, but basically I had all these pictures of this particular Tara, right, in this book, and I'd been looking at this book and thinking how amazing these green goddess like beings were. And one of the things that it said in the book, in the foreword by Deepak Chopra, was that if you meditate with the Tara, on the image of the Tara, the woman, the being, whatever, and the images of the Buddha and so on, that you invite their presence into your life. And I really believed that. I was really kind of wanting to bring the spirit of these enlightened beings into my life. I wanted them to show up basically in some form or other. Like, I wanted to know that someone in my life was embodying that Tara energy for me. Now, I subsequently feel like they don't have to come in a physical embodiment. Like, I've got a load of pictures of them upstairs in my room, actually. If only I had actually some on me right now. You're just going to have to go with this and believe it, because you're a believer. I might print a picture off actually while we're at it. I'll get that going in the background. We will print a picture of a Tara, Buddhist goddess, because they're cute. There's a good one. So I was meditating on this Buddha thing, right? Kind of female Buddha type thing. And I was like trying to invite them into my life. And then, as I was saying just a minute ago, this like random Australian chick just shows up like an embodiment of the freaking green Tara. And I was like, oh, fuck my life. This is amazing. And she's just perfect timing to help me like on the way in my journey. And why is this not opening now? This is more difficult than I thought it would be. Well, you can look it up for yourself, because I need to just not be distracted by printing things out on a video, I'm afraid. Okay. So yeah, so she shows up and I go, whoa, this is amazing. And believed it to be kind of the spirit of the Tara coming through this like Australian lady who had helped carry my bags, and knew where it was that I was staying, and sort of shepherded me in the late moments of the night and just got me to where I was going. And it was a beautiful moment, and I thanked her profusely. I was really grateful for that, and I thought, wow, this stuff is real. Yeah. So, okay, that's just sort of an aside, really. And then I fucking hostel, right? And the hostel was locked because it was 2 a.m. and they have
a kind of curfew about like letting people in after a certain time. So no one was there, and I was like, oh, sunk into a pit of despair, like, oh god. But I found a bell, and I just decided to ring the bell anyway, and eventually someone came down and let me in. But it was a tense moment. I was like, oh god, are they going to think I'm some kind of weirdo or whatever who shouldn't be there? But I had like this little booking form that said I should be there. So I got into this Brooklyn hostel, and immediately started missing the other hostel, the Jazz on Lennox hostel, where I knew all these people. I had built up like a load of friends who were like the staff members and long-term visitors, whatever, but mainly staff members. And I was just like, oh god, I miss it so bad. And this new hostel, I don't know, I just didn't really gel with anyone there. There was like an actress girl who was trying to like remember her lines for a script, and she wasn't really very conversational. I just couldn't really
feel like I could have a chat with anyone really. This is a green Tara. Yeah. So it's this kind of feeling. And I had a whole book full of these kind of pictures of these different goddesses. It's called Goddesses of the Celestial Gallery, is the book, by Romeo Threstra. It's a pretty cool book. Like really large pictures. They're all like A2 size. And yeah, so it's a pretty... And if there's anyone who I want to shag, it's a green bitch. It's a green goddess bitch, man. Yeah. And look, it's got little pet lions at the bottom. Line things. Whatever they are. It's all symbolic. So yeah, this Brooklyn hostel was shitty. And I was like, and one of the people there, the visitors, whatever, guests, was calling me English. That was my name, English. Hey English, shut up you, American. Hey English. And then another thing was like, I said that my name was Ross, and they said, what, Rocks? I was like, no, Ross. And they're like, Rocks, hey Rocks. So they called me Rocks. Well, Ross Rocks they called me, and I was like, and everyone was all smoking outside in the garden and getting drunk. And it was different to the jazz on Lennox, you know, it was just a different feeling. I didn't like it. I probably just didn't like it because I wasn't used to it, and it was just different. And I was like, I want to go back. I need to go back home to my jazz on Lennox where I know people. Yeah, and I stayed the time that I was allotted in Brooklyn, and then I went back to jazz on Lennox for a bit. But I watched a documentary about the 60s and the hippie culture in the 60s while I was in this Brooklyn one. And I told some guy about the big book that I had with all the pictures of the different taras in, and that you're supposed to meditate on them. And I was saying to him that if you connect with the spirit of these things, right, and you like zone into their facial expressions, not going to work particularly well with this one because it's too blurry, but on the picture that I had, the book of pictures, it was obviously big enough that you could look at it and it's very clear. And I was saying that if you connect with the spirit of the being in the picture, that it appears as though their facial expression changes. So one of them, for example, starts off looking like this really intensely, like staring me down. Like I was looking at, I was like, damn, she's mad at me. What have I done? And I was talking to her, like communing with the spirit kind of thing of this picture of this being. And after a while of paying attention to it and just kind of trying to connect and read into how is this being relating to me and how am I relating to this being, that after a while it appeared as though the facial expression started to change, so that it wasn't like she was staring at me like pissed at me. She was staring at me like being attentive to me, like loving me, being a loving creature. And initially I felt like it was contained within the picture that she was obviously mad, she was obviously angry at me. And then the more I penetrated understanding where this being was coming from, why does it appear that way, it started to shift as though something in the picture had changed. And I was like, my perception of this has changed to the point where it looks like the picture's actually changed. Like the expression does no longer looks like anger, and whenever I see that particular being now, I just see it as an expression of love. It just feels like this person, this being in the picture, is loving me. Yeah. Like you get some of these other ones as well where they've got the Wrathful deities. Wrathful deities. Oh god, deities in Buddhism, and they're all like these kind of scary, like crazy images. And I'll just put one on the camera now instead of printing it out. Come on, you. This is frustrating when it's not doing it. Okay, I'm gonna just, sorry for that. Oh, get out of the way. This is really frustrating. Okay, so that's a wrathful deity right there. And the idea of these things is they're supposed to help you confront fears in yourself, and so you meditate with these kind of wrathful images in order to deal with deeper psychological fears. So they represent dispelling your fears and helping you to confront deeper attachments. So they're not actually demons, they're there as ways for you to help clear up your psyche by shooing away demons, shooing away problems, and shooing away issues, and scaring away fear, if you like, and dissolving fear. So, like, for example, when I look at look at these things, initially, they appear to be very threatening, scary creatures, right? They want to bite your face off, and they got skulls around the thing. But you look at the skulls, and they seem pretty happy about themselves. I always feel that skulls look happy anyway. They're always smiling. And you realize that there's a humanity aspect to these creatures, and that's what they're designed to do. They're designed to help you look past the threatening nature of illusion. So they're designed to help you see past appearances and to get to the spirit. So this is just as much a human being as anyone who appears threatening to you in life is, and it's to help you like connect with the truth of the spirit on the inside of you, and the spirit of truth, which is that all appearances come from the same source, the same spirit, and that all beings have this indwelling consciousness in them. So although this appears like a scary, wrathful creature, if you look more deeply into it, and the longer you connect with it, that you realize that this is just a being who happens to look that way, and maybe he's not such a bad guy after all. Like the shark in Finding Nemo. Oh dear. Well, that's just my little take on it. I'm sure that there's a lot more to it than that. But yeah, if you connect with those wrathful beings longer as well, you realize that they share a humanity and a spirit with the more kind-looking ones. And it's interesting because someone can look like crazy fool, like in the expression of like but what if he just has that kind of teeth and he's actually a really happy guy, and he's actually just going and there's a different kind of expression that you can read into it. There's the kind of it's more difficult with this one, but the longer you spend connecting with these things, the more you gain the benefit of what they're trying to teach you. They're trying to sort of remove what do they call it? Remove obstacles to enlightenment. They're trying to slay illusion. They're trying to remove falsehood from you, and you have to meditate with them to understand and to feel the effect of what those deities are trying to do for you. Anyway, man, this is just a sermon. It's a lesson. I did say lesson at the beginning. I said it by accident, but it has actually turned into a lesson on Buddhism and enlightenment. Oh well. Yeah, so I was in Brooklyn, and I told some guy about this connecting with the spirits thing, and he was like, oh, okay, cool. Didn't really get it, but I was like, yeah, fine. And so I didn't like the Brooklyn one, and I just ended up going back to Jazz on Lennox. And when I got back to Jazz on Lennox, I was like, yeah, I feel better now. I'm at home. Like one of the long-term guests there, her name was Jessica. She was kind of cool. She was like, hey, you glad to be back, Ross? And I was like, yes, it's cool. I can't believe I left. I wish I hadn't gone. It sucked over there in Brooklyn. Okay, I'm running out of energy for this video. And I realised that I'm kind of darting around in this story because last video we were talking about Mrs. D. And in fact, what happened was when I skipped my flight and I became homeless and I was like pushing my stuff down the road with a trolley. Oh man, that sucked.
I just didn't know what the hell to do. I had this mobile phone, and there was also payphones back in those days that were still being used regularly by people. I guess no one really uses payphones anymore, but it was back in the days when payphones were still being used. And I think I just maybe I hustled some money to use a payphone. And I called my parents like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm I'm on the street. I'm on the street and I don't know what I'm doing. Something like that. And I don't know what the hell I was doing. And I ended up calling Mrs. D, who had gone back to Louisiana, Baton Rouge. And either I called her or she called me. I think I called her, but she may well have called me. Sometimes it happened that the things that I was about to do happened anyway. So like I feel as though it might even be that I was about to call her and she called me, and that I'd been thinking about going to stay with her as an option, because I was now like homeless or out of the hostel. And I think that it happened all in the same day actually. I got kicked out. I was on the streets with a little trolley, and then I was like on the phone to my parents on a payphone going, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm on the streets. And then I called, or I think I may have received the call from Mrs. D saying that she was thinking about me and she couldn't stop thinking about me and she missed me and stuff. After the nights of no sex in the hostel, as I mentioned before, or the one night of no sex in the hostel. Yeah, so she called me and I was like, yeah, man, I was just thinking of calling you. And I was saying, I've just been thinking that maybe I could go and stay with you. And she said, I was just kind of thinking the same thing. So yeah, why don't you come along? And I can't remember, but I think I booked like 2 weeks with her or a week. I remember that there was like a period of, I went there twice. I went to stay with her twice. Okay. And it's like something went wrong the first time and I went to go and stay with Will for a bit. I don't know, man. It just gets really messed up. And then the second time that I stayed with her, then I got homeless again because she kicked me out. So there's a lot to go through still, eh? So we leave the story of New York, even though we might dip back into it here and there anyway. But we're going to leave the story of New York, and I'm going to go to... maybe I didn't call... maybe I didn't call her straight away. No, maybe I did stay on the streets for a while. Yes, because I had the trolley of my stuff, yeah? And... yeah, I kept one of the guitars. I think I kept the acoustic guitar. Yes, I kept the acoustic guitar. Or was it the electric? I think I kept them both, actually. Maybe, I don't know how I kept them with me. Bloody hell. Because they got nicked. One of them got nicked. The acoustic guitar got nicked in a swimming pool, outdoor swimming pool like area, when I went to go and use the toilet. Maybe that was on the same day, because I left the guitar in my little shopping trolley. Oh my god. Oh jeez. Or I had this weird push trolley thing. It wasn't exactly a shopping trolley, it was some other weird trolley thing that I was using. I left it in there with some homeless guys who I asked them to look after it, this guitar. And when I got back, it was gone. And I don't know whether that was in New York or in Louisiana, but it was somewhere that my guitar got nicked. Because I was just too naive and stupid, and I genuinely trusted them to look after it while I went inside to the toilet bit. Maybe partly I wanted to get rid of it because it was too heavy and it was weighing me down. But man, there's so much to go through that happened that it's difficult to order things as well. So I know that I stayed... oh god, yeah, so I stayed a night in the Greyhound bus station. in the Port Authority bus terminal in New York, which is this massive bus terminal that takes buses from everywhere pretty much and sends you off into the wild from this massive bus terminal. And I stayed in there, and I got kind of caught by a security guard, and she told me that I couldn't sleep in there. And then I got taken to this place where it was basically like this kind of homeless shelter thing, where they gave you free meals and potentially free bed and stuff, and I just didn't want to stay there because it felt so fucking dangerous. I just didn't want to stay there at all. Like, everyone I spoke to there just seemed like really fucking dangerous, so I didn't stay there. Oh god. Yeah. Wow. So I did stay in New York for a little while on the streets. Jesus, before I ended up going to stay with Mrs. D. I'm gonna have to pick through that. That's some deep shit that I haven't faced for a long time. Then there's the part where I nearly get raped as well, or I get sexually assaulted. So, you know, that's all in there as well, which I need to go through. And that all happened in New York, not in Louisiana. And I don't know, like, what the fucking timeline was around there, like. So I'll have to pick through it, and it's going to be disorientating and disjointed. I'm sorry about that. But a lot of stuff happened, and it was a long time ago, and a lot of it's very traumatic. So it's not the most easy set of memories to go through, and it's not the most easy set of memories to put into a logical, chronological order. So just bear with me while I remember my long distant past and all the things that happened to me. And yeah, sorry if it's a bit of a bummer, the fact that I'm leaving you on this kind of deep, dark note where you don't even know in the story where I am, you know, where I am in America at this point in the story. And I'm kind of on the streets, or am I staying with Mrs. D, or am I about to be raped? You know, am I homeless in a bus terminal, or am I homeless on the streets? More on the homelessness aspect of New York and America in general next time on Fieros' story time with me, Fieros Reborn. Thank fuck I am reborn from that. I'm going to have a fucking giant glass of wine and watch back through this and try and pull my life together from it. Bye.